see you guys. I'm telling you, the Great Awakening is real. It's been a long, hard road, and the road is not over yet. We got a ways to go, but we're getting there because of all you guys.
I'd also like you to know that our judges are honorable people, but you need to have some knowledge to understand the system. You need to have some knowledge to understand your government. You need to have knowledge to understand who you are. A fraud has been taking place over the millennium, and this is why your rights have been stripped from you. We are a custom of people that recognize harm and damage as being the main concept in law. And what governs you day by day is legalese and a system of policies. What you need to know is when you speak about your federal government, your provincial government, and your municipal government, these are de facto governments. What does that mean? They are corporation governments, and they fall under the authority of the Crown. Now, don't be mistaken. The Crown is not the Queen and the monarchy. They have been slowly moved out of that role. The Crown is inner city London, the banking center, that set up a deal, and it was initiated in 1933 in our country and most of the Western countries of the world, because we were bankrupted by the First World War that this cabal created.
Yes!
All of our global wars are from a cabal of people.
Yep.
They are centered in inner city London, the Vatican,
Yeah.
and also Switzerland. The home base of a long history of bloodlines are centered there. These are the people that strip away your rights. But let me explain a little bit to you why. So in 1933, a deal was made with our governments that these banking institutions would loan money under the condition that everyone that was born would now be birthed. You have been birthed, and you are always asked for your birth certificate and your IDs that are all attached to the birth certificate. You became incorporated in a system, and you have rights as a person, no longer as a man or a woman. Those lawful rights you had, which is our tradition, were slowly eroded and taken away. And the institutions work basically on that foundation. They can literally, when people talk about human rights, civil rights, legal rights, we all now know all of these rights can be stripped from us.
Yes!
Like that, done.
Gone.
But they cannot strip away your lawful rights. Okay? We have earned that through the Magna Carta. We went to civil war for those rights, and we brought those rights to this land. Those rights of law have been established here for almost 400 years.
Right.
But we've lost track with it. Our institutions, because of the fifth column, infiltrating all of the institutions and our governments. We don't have this knowledge. Our ancestors did. If you can believe it, people often say to me, how do I do this common law? Well, believe it or not, 100 years ago, people who could not read and write were using the common law. And we can easily move back in that direction. I will tell you that out of approximately 12 Queen's Bench justices, 10 of them have remained in honor when I've been before them. And recognizing me and the people I was speaking for as a man or a woman. But I've had problems with two. One of which was seized from the court by the system. You see, the system is not all corrupt, okay? We do have lawful rights, and we have to return to that. And you need to be educated, bit by bit. The words that trap you and trick you. Anytime you're interacting with government, you're interacting with an agent. And an agent means actor. They're all actors. They're pretending to play a role because they're not in the real world.
Yes.
They're not in God's creation.
No.
It's a fictional realm. It's commerce. And you've been tricked into it.
Yes, we have.
There's a well-known maxim in their system, and I'm going to get you to repeat it because I want it to stay with you, and you begin to understand who you are. That maxim is this, if you can believe it: let the deceived be deceived.
Yep.
Well, no more. Repeat with me. Let the deceived be deceived. No more.
No more.
Let the deceived be deceived. No more. You know who you are now. This is how you're interacting. Every time you use identification, you are entering into that realm voluntarily. You're volunteering to enter into that realm. You can be a man or a woman in lawful rights.
Yes.
And I said, as I said about the government, don't throw it all away. These people are also manipulated from behind the scenes. We all know that. We all know this character in Ottawa.
Yep.
You know, it's so disgusting to think
Yep.
that this is what's become of our political system. But look around the world. This is not by accident. Our governments, the federal government in particular, is controlled by the Privy Council. The Privy Council is directly connected to the inner city London. They're still ruling us,
See?
but through deceit. So,
Powerful.
yeah. Are
Yep.
you getting it?
Yes.
Does it make sense now?
Yes.
Is it coming together?
Yes.
Yes. Now, I got to tell you also, although all the lawyers are functioning in the legal realm, there's a lot of good ones in there. And there's a lot of good prosecutors. I've had some of them come to me at the end of court and apologize because I know the system. I know what they're doing. And they don't really feel good about it. They didn't really know what they were entering into.
Wow.
So don't dislike them. Don't be angry towards them. But I wish they would step up to the plate a little more.
Yes.
A lot of them only function in commerce and business and real estate and things like that because they don't have the stomach to process people through courts as a corporate entity, as a person. The Constitution of Canada lays it out. It's right there. That Constitution is offered to you to become an agent, an employee, or a citizen. Those are persons. They send you correspondence. Look at your ID. It's in capital letters.
Yes.
It's only recognizing you as a corporate entity.
Yep.
This is how they stripped away your rights.
Yep.
They stripped away your wealth.
Wow.
This is inner city London. This is the Vatican. This is Switzerland.
Yes.
You have to know this. This is the core of bloodlines that originate in Egypt.
Amazing.
The Pharaoh bloodlines. They conquered Italy, what we know as Italy and Sicily. They became the Roman Empire that conquered Europe.
Wow.
This is our history. These Etruscans that we thought were Romans.
Yes.
Okay? Now, I want to just touch on a little bit with the Queen, okay? The Queen, the tradition with the Queen, and it's quite a history. But still, Queen Elizabeth, after her coronation, said she would uphold the common law. Okay? And it's through the monarchy that we have had lawful courts going back to the Magna Carta. All of these other courts you're entering into are tribunal courts, and you are only a person in those courts. Does it make sense to you?
No.
You know why? You've been manipulated? But I gotta tell you something else. You also have an obligation to know the truth, but it's not really their fault that you've entered into these courts and because you've lost the knowledge of law.
Yes.
We all have. Our culture has been decimated. Stock market crash, depression, world wars. It's endless. And we also know that our media is not ours.
No,
it's
it is not.
documented. Okay? But this is a step forward. Now, I've got to tell you, I've been talking about this subject for close to 20 years. 20 years ago, people used to call me a conspiracy theorist.
Yep.
Well, once I started having some success in the courts, people stopped smearing me,
Woo!
started listening.
Yeah.
But we're living in a time now where people are awake.
Woo!
We want the truth. It's truth we want.
Yes.
We want law.
Yes.
And yes, liberty is really what we want.
Woo!
Freedom is not expanded enough in terms of its value. What you want is liberty. I brought with me here today, and I hope I'm not going past too much time here. Quite often I take an hour or two to give you more in-depth knowledge about words. A wonderful word for you to know today is understand. These agents and agencies will always ask you, look in the contract, they'll always ask you if you understand.
You understand
It
it?
does not mean comprehend. It means, do you stand under? Are you standing under what they say? Right. So do not understand. Take it out. I've got here before you, I thought I would share this with you. I've sent this correspondence. It's certified to this government. And I've given them notice that they have been in violation of law.
Woo!
Your lawful rights. Never before in our history that I know of have they ever claimed that your body is their property.
Insanity.
That's a lawful violation.
Yes.
Your body is your property in law. Your boys and girls, do not call them children. Do not call them child. You do not know the meaning of that word. Because it means to be ward of the government or ward of the court. You call your boys and girls and your sons and daughters by those names. Not by child, not by children.
So powerful.
So, I think the hook is going to come out pretty soon. But I'm gonna give you a little taste here, and this is what I sent to Jason Kenney, the Honorable Jason Kenney. You know, I had to think this morning. Sometimes I have such a dislike for these political figures. Right in the last little while, his image seems to be improving because he wants to take on the federal government.
Yeah, he does.
But I don't think it has anything to do with your rights.
No, it does not.
It's got to do with their territory,
That's right.
their jurisdictions. I don't see anything about your rights.
No. It's just a
Okay? So he looks good and sounds good. But where has he been for 2 years? Why is it so many people know the truth about the vaccines? Why is it so many people know the truth about the PCR test?
Yes.
But they ignored it.
They have.
They continued to put this, unlawful thing on us. So, I go back, I'm old enough, when I was a young kid, the assassination of John F. Kennedy was a major blow to this continent,
Right.
to the world. It was a time of hope. The assassination of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy, these were important people in an important era. But you see, back then people didn't have knowledge. They didn't have the support. Kennedy spoke about this group. And not too long after, they eliminated him in the public. But this is different. These times are different. The people have knowledge. They can't take us all out.
No, they cannot.
We have to move towards law and bringing law, the rule of law, back to our land and back into our governments and back into our courts. This is essentially what we need.
Yeah! Thank you!
My name is Leo, and I belong to the Cody family.
Thank you!
That's who I am.
Thank you!
So I'd like you to know they've received this notarized paperwork. I've got a violation of about 10 of their rules and regulations in here. And I've got several. I got to tell you something that you need to know. You have rights by faith as well. Do you realize that?
Rights by faith.
You have rights by faith. Do you know that Queen Elizabeth II is a defender of your faith? Her title is also Defender of the Faith. She took her oath upon the King James Bible, which means she recognizes man and woman. This is what the Bible tells us. The Bible also tells us not to enter into personage. But we don't know what that is. We don't know what that means.
Not anymore.
It's there. Those truths are there. Queen Elizabeth still upholds the institution of the monarchy, still upholds your lawful rights. We just got to go back and use it. All of us. We have another way to approach our problems with the local bureaucrats and stuff. And I will talk about that on another occasion, but that is to go after their bonds. When we remove their bonds, they're out of office. They're out of their positions. It's like taking the carpet out from beneath them. It's another remedy that you can all learn in a much easier fashion. So, I'd like to thank you, but I'd like to ask you a question that a friend of mine always likes to ask people. And it's this. Think about it. Where do you live? Huh? Right. Okay. People give a location usually, right? Well, I got to tell you, here's where you live. Here. See the programming? The programming that's happened to you? Now, I got to tell you, when you say that you live in the city of Edmonton, you're saying you're living in a corporation. You're entering into contract. When you say you live in Alberta, you're saying you live within the government, inside of it. You're entering into contract. When you say you live in Canada, you're saying you're entering into contract. Because these are institutions that are corporations. Remember, as I said that earlier, these are de facto governments, and they are de facto governments because we, the people, have never created our own governments. The only time that has ever been attempted is with Louis Riel, and he's been painted out to be anything but good. And the Crown came in and crushed him.
Yes.
But that was an attempt to bring lawful rights to you, all of you.
Thank you!
So thank you for being here.
I'd like to thank you very much.
This is a notice for each man and woman acting as agents for the corporal de facto government of Canada, federal, provincial, municipal, and state. By the grace of
Put your faith in Jesus Christ today. We would welcome you to come and receive prayer. Pray that sinner's prayer that you know that you're powerless against your sin, but that you know that God is our salvation. He saves us from our sin. He saves us from the curse of the earth. Maybe it's a family curse. You can be delivered of that. You can be delivered of
So that's a contrast. Of course, I don't support contrast. So yeah, it's
that government long established should not be charged for light and transient causes, but the government with a history of abusing and usurpation An end of said despotism is essential. De facto governments strip away law and the property of the people. Corporate governments generate profit for few and bring evil, tyrannical deeds, theft, usurpation, harm, and damage upon the people of the land. We have given notice from